So this isn't meant to be your typical bullshit of don't buy that Starbucks coffee, cancel that Netflix subscription or some other rubbish. It's not meant to be like that. I wanted to cover what I think are some of the biggest financial mistakes that people make in their 20s. They're things or sort of mistakes that I've made myself, and a lot of them I've seen other people make, and it's what I wanted to cover. Before we get into this video, please subscribe to my newsletter if you haven't already. I send it out once a month, sharing cool, interesting stories and experiences and stuff like that, and also sharing links to interesting things. I've also recently started or revived my Patreon, sharing behind the scenes content and stuff on there. Also have a private Discord on there as well, so make sure to check that out. So the first one is stop buying expensive cars if you don't have the disposable income. I see so many people in their 20s go out, they've got their new job, they're earning 20, 30, 40, 50 grand a year, and they're like, I'm going to go buy crazy expensive car, basically on the limit of what they can afford. And it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. It's so stupid. I've seen so many friends do it. And after they've done it, I can, 2 or 3 years later, they instantly regret it. They're like, I don't even know why I did that. I don't know why I started paying 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds a month on a car. Like, it's just such a waste of money. Yeah, the amount of people that regret spending that sort of money on cars, it's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious because it's also awful, but yeah, the amount of people that just don't think about it before doing it. The worst thing about buying these cars is that usually they depreciate, especially in the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's when you get the biggest hit of depreciation. Depending on the car you buy, the running cost can also be insane. You could be spending thousands on a service every year, on fuel every year. Yeah, what a waste of money. I think the general rule should be that you spend around 10 to 20% of your salary on a car. I think that makes the most sense, and it's what most people recommend online as well. I see people on salaries of less than 80, 90,000, and they're buying cars which are like 50,000 pounds, which I just think is like, what are you doing? That's like more than half of your income. That's the dumbest thing you can do. Unless you have a job where somehow a nice car matters. I know there are some jobs where having a nice car does matter. Yeah, you really don't need to buy a super fancy expensive car. Like, you just don't need to, because most people really don't care what car you drive. The only reason where I could see spending a good chunk of money on a car is if you have a good job and you have a good disposable income, you have a good chunk of money left over every month that you can spend maybe 300, 400, 500 on a car, or you buy a car that's going to appreciate in value. Some cars do go up in value, especially recently. There have been a lot of cars that have gone up in value, but those cars are usually like 100, 150, 200, 300, maybe even millions. And yeah, I think if you're sort of in that market, then this probably won't even apply to you anyway. I've only ever bought one car new, and that was mainly because of tax benefits and buying it through my company. Other than that, all the other cars I've ever bought have always been used, and I always try to go for cars that are 3 years or older, because in those first 3 years, that's when they take the biggest hit on depreciation. After 3 years, some cars can be worth half the value that they were when they were new, which is, yeah, absurd, because some of the cars I've bought, yeah, they've lost half their value in 3 years, and I've come along, bought them 3 years later for half the price, and I'm like, this is actually a pretty good deal. I think the only time where it actually makes the most sense to buy a car new is if you have a job where you rely on a car, whether that's getting to work or something like that, or maybe you're driving around for your job. That's the only time where I think it's worth spending money on a new car, mainly because obviously if you buy a new car, you get the customer service that comes with it, you get the warranty that comes with it. So if something goes wrong with your car in the first 1, 2, 3 years, that's usually how long the warranties are. Yeah, usually the garage will sort it out, no problem. They'll give you a courtesy car, whatever. You don't have to worry about that. And obviously the other side benefit of buying a new car is that it has no wear and tear. So, you most likely won't need to spend a ton of money on sort of like tires and brakes or anything like that. So that's why I think it makes the most sense to buy a new car. But unless it's actually required, like you need it for work or you need it to get somewhere here and there, whatever, yeah, I just don't think it's worth buying a new car. You're just so much better off saving that money and going for a used car. Next up is stop buying overpriced designer gear. Now the key word here is overpriced, because when it comes to designer stuff, some designer stuff can actually make a lot of sense. There are some brands out there that are great. They make great products, they make great quality products, they have a great brand ethos or something like that. Brands like that, yeah, buy from them. But most people in their 20s aren't thinking about that when they buy designer gear. They're buying designer gear that's super flashy, super sort of like tacky looking, I think, especially when you see like, I don't know, I don't want to name any brands, but you'll see some branded tops where the logo is just massive and there's just big ugly prints and stuff on it. I just think that just looks so tacky. You spent all this money not to even look good. You just sort of wasted money on this ugly ass top that, yeah, it just doesn't even look stylish whatsoever. It's pretty wild to me, because you're basically a walking billboard for this brand. You're wearing their top with a massive logo on it, but the thing is, you have paid them to wear that item when they should be paying you to wear that item. Like, why pay someone else to wear their big logo out and about and to show it off? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if I were to wear a big logo like that, I feel like I'd have to be paid to wear something like that, because I'm not getting any benefit from it. The only sort of like social indicator that you're showing to people is that, hey, I can afford this designer top. But honestly, I don't think most people care. Like, you're trying to impress the wrong type of people, I think. You never see actual wealthy people wear big designer logos. The only type of people that you will see wear big designer logos are usually celebrities, singers, rappers, and sort of other people like that. And the reason they wear those big designer flashy logos is because most of the time they're getting those items for free from those brands, or they're getting paid to wear them. If you're getting paid thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars, yeah, and you're a celebrity, yeah, you're going to wear what they ask you to wear because you're getting paid just to wear some top with a big old logo in it. Those are the only type of people that I see wear big logos. And the problem is, it does influence young people, people in their 20s, myself included. You see a big flashy logo and you think, okay, I like the look of that. When in reality, actually, it's pretty ugly if you just looked at it properly. The only reason you think it's cool is because you're seeing this other sort of person that you think is cool wearing it. I see female friends also do the same with the designer bags. They're spending thousands on designer bags that just don't hold their value. Now, it's a different case if you get the opportunity to buy a Birkin bag. Birkin bags do go up in value, same as things like Rolex watches and sort of other high-end watches and whatever. If you do get the opportunity to buy a Birkin, even if I got the opportunity to buy a Birkin bag, I would. Like, I just would. But yeah, most bags do not go up in value. They usually just lose money, and it's just a big waste of money, really. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy designer gear whatsoever. I buy designer gear myself. I buy Ralph Lauren stuff. You might have seen me wear Ralph Lauren clothing. You might have seen me wear like Common Projects for shoes and stuff like that. I do think it really depends on what you're buying, whether you're buying stuff that's made to last, whether you're buying stuff that's high quality. I think the important thing is that you're not buying it to sort of impress other people. You're buying it because you like the look of it and you want to wear it. Now, if you like the big flashy ginormous logos, go ahead, you buy that sort of stuff. I personally just think it looks pretty trashy and pretty tacky. Next up is not setting any financial goals. So I see a lot of friends do this. They start a new job in their 20s, they start earning good money and stuff, but they're not really thinking about what they're going to do with that money. They're not really setting any goals with that money, whether that's something like buying a home, whether that's putting money aside for investment or retirement or whatever, or, you know, just something else that can help you sort of grow your wealth, you could say. I remember one of the first financial goals I set for myself, which I think I was 18 at the time, was saving up for my own place. The reason why I wanted to save up for my own place was because, you know, I naturally just felt like I wanted to get out under my parents. I didn't want to live with my parents anymore. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be able to do my own thing. I wanted to have my own space that I can do what I like with, and yeah, just be in control of my own life. I feel like those things really drove me to instantly think of, okay, I'm going to start saving for my own place now. Even though I'm 18, it might take me years, and it did take me years. Like, you know, you're not earning crazy money at 18. Yeah, it did take me a long time to start sort of building up that money. But because I had set the goal at 18 and I kept at it for years, I had a pot building up over time. Obviously, at the beginning, it's very, very slow because you're not saving that much money, because you're not earning that much money. But you've just got to see the sort of long-term vision. You've got to see, okay, what's this going to be like in 5 years? What's this going to be like in 10 years? I think it's very important to have those goals, because otherwise you get this money and you think, oh, okay, it's extra money, I can just spend it on this, that and the other. Naturally, most people just get comfortable being at home. You know, you have mummy and daddy sort of taking care of you, paying rent or whatever, just sorting out the home. You don't really have to worry about much, or maybe you're just paying a very little amount towards rent. When you don't have that pressure to move out, you're kind of just like, I'll just go along with it. But what happens is, and I've seen it so many times now, is that a friend of mine, they'll get a serious girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever. They'll find a partner. And then they realize, I'm still living at home and I don't really have any sort of my own sort of private space, my own private time with my partner. And then they realize, oh, damn, okay, I need to move out. I need to get my own place. And then they end up, unfortunately, either renting because they just don't have the money for a deposit for their own place. And yeah, it just ends up becoming a struggle because they haven't set that financial goal of, damn, like if I had started saving earlier, if I had really sort of thought about this earlier, I would have enough money to move out now, you know. At the same time, I think it's completely okay to live at home with your parents. Hell, maybe you could live with your parents and then buy a property and rent it out or something like that. As long as you just have those financial goals, it's just going to make a big difference when it comes to sort of your wealth and your money going forward. This leads well into investing your money. And this is something I really wish I had done earlier on. Now, of course, I did have the financial goal of buying a property. I guess that is seen as investing in a way, you could say. But I wish I had known about investing in stocks and shares, or basically just did stocks and shares earlier in life, as soon as I turned 18 maybe, because there aren't many regrets I have in life, but that is definitely one of the biggest regrets that I have, because I think if I had started investing in the stock market when I was 18, 19, 20, you know, just a bit younger, I think my portfolio would probably be double or triple the value that it is now. Yeah, like I said, it's just definitely one of the biggest mistakes I made. But at the same time, it's sort of not my fault because I had no one to sort of teach me. I had no role models. I had no other people to sort of look up to when it comes to what to do with my money. No one really told me, hey, you know, you should do this with your money, you should do that with your money. I never really had anyone to sort of see what they've done and sort of follow what they've done. Yeah, that was definitely one of the biggest regrets and biggest mistakes. And it's one of the things that I always tell anyone who asks, you know, in their early 20s, what are you doing with your money? Do you have any money in your savings? You know, you're just so much better off. I mean, maybe not right now, but it really depends on your vision. But you're just so much better off investing that money into stocks and shares rather than just leaving it in your bank account. Some of you do ask for sort of investment advice, and I'll be honest, like I am no investment advisor or anything like that, but I do have a few sort of bullet points that I've written down of how I invest. So I'm very much a sort of invest and forget it type of person. I'm not the type of person to sort of buy and sell stocks and shares every single day, mainly because I just don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge either to follow these companies so closely to figure out, okay, what's going to make me money today? I'm more the type of person where I'm looking maybe 2, 3, 5, 10 years ahead, just thinking about what stocks and shares will go up in value in that sort of time. I have some other general rules when it comes to investing as well. So I like to invest in companies that I use day to day. So it could be even just like Apple. You know, I use Apple products every day, so I invest in Apple. I like to stick to what I know. So because I'm into tech, I'm really into sort of tech and gadgets and stuff like that. I do heavily invest sort of in tech companies. And then finally, will this company still be relevant in 5 to 10 years? So yeah, those are sort of some of the general rules that I have, but you know, there is no sort of fixed rule when it comes to investing. I think if you want to just play it safe, put it into the S&P 500, put all of your money into that, and I feel like as long as you wait it out 5 to 10 years, 20 years even maybe, yeah, you're going to profit for sure. The other side benefit of investing in stocks and shares is that capital gains tax is usually lower than income tax, especially in the UK, and I think it's the same in the US. So in the UK, you know, if you're earning 100,000 a year, you're going to pay a good portion of that is going to be 40% tax. Like that's just the way it works. But with capital gains and stocks and shares, say you make 100 grand profit, say you make £1 million profit, you're only going to pay 20% tax on that. And that's only on the profits. That's not on the overall money that you've made, including how much you've invested. That's only on the profits. So yeah, it's a much sort of tax efficient way to make money, but obviously it's much slower as well. Next up, we have gambling. So I have never actually gambled in my life on anything whatsoever. I've never bet on a football game or anything like that. I've never even had a friendly bet with a friend. And there are a few reasons why. I mean, I probably should try gambling at some point. You know, I want to go to Vegas at some point and put money on roulette or something like that, just for fun. But the main reason why I haven't really sort of gone into gambling or anything like that is because I've just heard so many horror stories growing up, especially family, friends and stuff like that. It's really put me off. And yeah, it's just people losing money and stuff. I just think it's just way too risky. Way too risky. But I think what's most scary is how normalized gambling is, which is such a shame because I feel like it's quite a dangerous thing to get into. You know, you see people sort of gambling every weekend, sometimes multiple times a week. And it just blows my mind because gambling is designed to make money for the gambling company. It's not designed to make money for you. All of these gambling companies are for-profit companies. So all of these odds are in their favor, not in your favor. That's an unfair game. Why would you play that game? I know it can be very enticing. You know, you see odds of maybe your favorite football player sort of scoring a goal or whatever at this time, maybe your favorite football team and another football team losing a match or something like that, placing a bet like that. I just feel like it can be very enticing. I can completely get it, but you can just go into sort of like a vicious circle because if you lose money, you're like, okay, this next bet, I'm going to gain money. I'm going to win that money back. It can end up just being quite a vicious cycle. And I just find it crazy how it's so normalized to gamble and bet on things. Unless you're someone who has very good control of your impulses, you have very good self-control, addiction control and stuff like that, I just don't think it's worth getting into gambling, especially when you're in your 20s. You know, you don't have tons of disposable income most likely anyway, so why gamble that away? I can understand maybe you do a little bit of gambling here and there, maybe you go to a casino with some friends and it's just for a little bit of fun, but as long as you're not sort of spending a good chunk of your money, maybe it's like thousands or even hundreds maybe, on a bet, I just feel like, you know, it's the dumbest thing you could do. Next up, we have traveling. So this is going to be a controversial one. I don't think many people are going to like this one. But I think if you're in your early 20s and you take out 6 months, 12 months or something like that, and you use all of your savings and you go traveling for all that time, before you started a career, before you started a job, I think that is the dumbest thing ever. And I see so many people do it all the time. Like, I just think that's absolutely silly. Why spend all of your savings, all the money that you've got from doing a part-time job or whatever, and just waste it on traveling? Like, I just think it's crazy to me, because I feel like you can do it another way, where you can start your career, you can start your job, and then once you're earning money, once you're in a secure position where you're going through sort of career development, you could say, you can start traveling then. You can travel multiple times a year. That's exactly what I do. I love going to different places. I love seeing new places and stuff like that. I feel like everyone should see the world if you can. But the problem is a lot of people do it with money that they shouldn't really be spending, that they shouldn't really be wasting on. They should be doing other things with this money. And these days, most jobs give you quite good vacation time. I know in the UK, it's mandatory to have 4 weeks holiday. You take that regardless. You have to take it. Like, it's required by law to take that holiday. 4 weeks of holiday every year, that's pretty decent. Obviously, if you're in a job where you can work remotely, even better. Like me, I can sort of work anywhere I like most of the time. But even with that sort of luxury, I only like to travel a couple of times a year, because I don't want to be traveling all the time and sort of just get out of the zone. I like sort of being focused. That's why I have a studio space and stuff. But I know that if I wanted to, I could probably travel for the whole year round, but still make money at the same time, still make money from my job. And I think having a good balance of both is more important than being like, hey, I'm in my early 20s, I'm going to blow all of my money, I'm going to go traveling. Like, I just feel like that's so silly. You have so many years ahead of you to go traveling. You have so many decades ahead of you to go traveling. Don't feel like you have to do it in your early 20s. I don't know where that came from. I don't know why this idea of when you're in your early 20s, you should go out and spend all of your money traveling. Like, who thought that was a good idea? Like, you come back from your traveling, you have no money, you don't have a job yet, and you've taken a year out, maybe after university or something like that, and you haven't really done anything. And now you're kind of just struggling because you're back at home. You've had this freedom of traveling the world, but now you're back at home living with mom and dad, and you're like, okay, I've got to sort of fix myself up now. I've got to get a job. I've got to start earning money because I don't have anything. You sort of set yourself a year back when you could have got a job straight out of university, or maybe start a business or something like that, and then travel whilst you're working. But this is a controversial one. Not everyone will agree with me, and that's completely fine. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because yeah, for me personally, I just think you're so much better off traveling over time rather than trying to do it all at once. And then finally is living below your means. So I did a video a couple months ago on how I live on 100,000 a year, basically what I spend and stuff like that. And if you guys have watched that video, you can tell that I live well below my means. Like, I have quite a bit of money left over every month to do whatever I want with. And I've intentionally done that because I don't want to spend every penny that I earn on just rubbish. Like, I want to have all my bills and stuff covered, have my mortgage covered, have anything else that requires me living covered, but then also have a good chunk of money to put away into investments, to put away for retirement and things like that. So many people end up getting into lifestyle creep. So, you know, they've got a promotion, they're earning 10,000, 20,000 more a year, and they're like, okay, now that I earn this money, I can now buy a nicer car or something like that, which is just silly really, because you're now tying yourself sort of to that car just to have a nicer car, and it'll be nice for the first few months. But then in like a year or two, you'll be like, okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe I could have done something more meaningful with that money. Whether that's like, I don't know, maybe buying a big house, because I think it's actually a better idea buying a nicer place, because also your money's going into something rather than going into a depreciating asset. Or even like traveling. Like I said earlier, traveling, I think when you're young and just spending all of your money traveling isn't worth it. But once you're in a job and you earn good money, you know, traveling can be a meaningful thing. It's learning from the experiences of traveling. So living below your means, I think, is super, super important, because if you're earning more and more money, you don't want to be spending that money just because you earn more money. Like, it's just silly. I feel as though it's really difficult to explain what it feels like to know that when you're living below your means, you have all of your bills covered, you have your mortgage covered, you have any sort of essentials covered, and then you have money left over every month where, you know, you can put that into investments or something like that. Having that leftover money, having that sort of backup money, it's such a good feeling. I never want to feel like, shit, my washing machine is broke, my boiler has broke or something like that. I never want to feel like that. I always want to have that sort of money left over because I'm living below my means. I'm being able to save that money, that sort of emergency fund of when something goes wrong, it doesn't matter. I have this emergency fund. This is the reason why I have it. I'm completely fine. I can definitely afford my mortgage payments for the next 6 months, for the next 12 months, or whatever it might be. Living below your means is such a sort of like, it just gives you peace. I feel like that's the best way to explain it. It really gives me peace anyway. Knowing that I'm living well below my means, knowing that I can afford all of my bills, knowing that I have an emergency fund, that sort of feeling, yeah, I think it's one of the best feelings because it just feels so comfortable. So that's it for this video, going through some of the financial mistakes that I think a lot of people make in their 20s, but these can also apply in your 30s, 40s. I feel like, you know, some people don't really get their life together until they're a bit older, and that's completely okay. You know, maybe in your 20s you had a tough life or whatever, or maybe you just had other crap to deal with. That's completely okay. If you know of any other financial mistakes that people make in their 20s, please leave them in the comments below. I'm always interested to hear sort of what other thoughts people have. You should also check out one of my other videos. I did a video on investing in yourself, sort of best purchases and what you should do in your 20s, and going through what I think is the best places where I spent money. And then I also made a video on living on 100k, how much I spend a month, just going through how much I spend per month, sort of my bills and expenses and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe for more.